Hey, it's time for VoiceOver Body Shop. How's everybody doing out there? We got a great guest tonight. Somebody who's going to inform us about some new technology and some other cool stuff because he knows everything about everything audio, or at least we've been led to believe that.
He knows more than we need to know. Let's put it that way.
Right. Robert Marshall's our guest tonight. Say hello, Mark.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. We got lots to talk about. So if you've got a question, throw it in the chat room, whether you are in Facebook or YouTube Live, or if you're some strange reason watching on LinkedIn, we'd love to hear from you there too.
This is a great time to ask questions about Source Connect, of course, or about anything about PASport, the new audio interface, or really just about voiceover production in general. Robert produces.
Right. Are we ready, gentlemen?
Let's do it.
Time for VoiceOver Body Shop. Right. Wait a second. I got to be in the right place right now.
VoiceOver Body Shop is brought to you by VoiceOverEssentials.com, the home of Harlan Hogan's signature products. Source Elements, the folks who bring you Source Connect. VOHeroes.com, become a hero to your clients with award-winning voiceover training. VoiceActor.com, your voiceover website ready in minutes. VoiceOver Extra, your daily resource for voiceover success. And by World Voices, the industry association of freelance voice talent. And now, here's your hosts, Dan and George.
Well, hello there. I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop.
or VOBS.
Yes.
Oh, Robert picked up on that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, especially dealing with some new voiceover-only technology. Dealing with
VoiceOver only plus.
Again, if you have any questions for Robert Marshall about, audio engineering or what he's been engineering or Source Connect or some of the stuff from Source Elements, feel free to throw it in the chat room where Jeff Holman and his forehead will put the information in front of us and we can ask him in our next segment. So don't hesitate to ask a question. So anyway, it's time to introduce our guest, who is he is not a mystery to us. Robert Marshall is the innovations co-founder of Source Elements. He holds degrees in electrical engineering and music composition. Using his skills as a musician, engineer, and producer, he is the visionary behind the idea of leveraging internet connectivity to make post-production faster and more productive. Let's welcome back to our show, Robert Marshall. How you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing? Thank you.
We're doing okay.
Thanks for joining us. I feel like I've talked to you much too much lately.
Yeah, well, we've been trying to get the word out, and
It's a lot.
probably more emails than talking, actually.
Yeah, you're right. No, it's been a hell of a lot of emails. But it's great. It's good to see your face here, and thanks for joining us to talk about your side of the glass, so to speak.
Yeah.
Side of the glass.
Whatever side of whatever you're on. Anyway, so let me ask you, how did you start in audio engineering?
Trying to be in a band, basically.
That'll do it.
You were the guy in the band that had to deal with the sound because nobody.
I figured out, like, I don't know. I started a band with my friend, and all we really had was guitars. And then I had another friend who had a little cassette 4-track, and I was mesmerized. And they had done like an album in maybe it was freshman year of high school. So I recorded some songs over there, and then eventually my neighbor had a broken TIAC 3340 reel-to-reel machine, which is a nice 1/4-inch 4-track. And gosh, what happened? My uncle fixed it. He worked for GE. He could read a schematic, like fix one thing in it. Boom, that thing came back to life. And then I recorded an album with that. And the other thing I had was an Ensoniq SQ1 keyboard sequencer where you could get your drums and everything else you can imagine out of it. And you'll get a kick out of this. Like, to sync them up, I just had a mark for the playhead or the record head, and I'd put a mark on the tape and I'd line it up to either one, and I would just the TAC, like, you hit play and it would just go. There wasn't any so I just hit play on the two at the same time.
I know why I like Ensoniq. Not only did my cousin have an Ensoniq ESQ1, but they were founded and ran in Malvern, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
which is a suburb between Philly and Westchester, where I grew up. So that's
probably the saddest thing about Ensoniq is they got sold to Sound Blaster, and sort of went just completely consumer. And
that's right. Creative Technology is the thing.
And where is Sound Blaster today?
Well, probably bigger. Yeah, they probably made more money than making keyboards.
So you came out of, as a lot of people do, learning the recording engineering from doing music, and then you drifted over to some other stuff, namely this thing that we've been talking about for the last 15 years called Source Connect. So how did you start Source Elements?
So basically, I get out of school for music composition and electronics, and I work at some studios, and I eventually end up at this post house in Chicago called Cutters, and they had video editorial, they had finishing, there was Hollywood on 2 floors of an office building. They had just all the disciplines, and in that was audio. And they had just switched to Pro Tools, and I'm coming out of college. They had a Pro Tools system at college, version 2, if you can believe that. And then I bought my first Pro Tools system because I was working a retail job, and I decided I was going to get it with a discount. So I got a Pro Tools 3 system way back then in the 90s. And I knew Pro Tools, so I got my gig at Cutters. And Cutters was doing a lot of ISDN sessions. And they used to, I guess, comment on how expensive the phone bill was. And I think at the time it was, as much as $2,000 a month. And
oh, wow, yeah.
Oh yeah, like $1 a minute or more kind of stuff. And so at the same time they had a T1 line, if you can believe that. And that was oh my God, we have this super fast internet connection, because everything else was
1.5 megabits per second.
Right. This is most people are still getting dial up for their house at this point.
Right.
It's mostly 56K. If you're really fancy, maybe you have a DSL connection. Cable companies are not providing internet at this point. And so I was like, hey, this internet thing, ISDN's 128K, and the internet here is 1.5 megs. Shouldn't this be possible? And he just sort of was whatever, go figure it out if you think that's such a great idea. And I ended up doing a proof of concept, and just streamed audio, I think actually using QuickTime at the time, from the Chicago office to the California office. Seemed reasonably feasible. There was some latency. There were some dropouts. And we began trying to find people that would be able to put sort of build the software, the system the way we thought it should be. And every single quote was just out of hand. It was insane. You go to all the existing music companies and all the vendors that Cutters had and they're just oh yeah, we'll build that for $1 million or something. I was no. And at the same time, I had some friends who had built software out of their basement and had done really well doing that. And so I knew that it doesn't take a big company. It just takes one really motivated person, and they can do what seemed like an application. You learn a lot of these things later, but I couldn't get him to do it because he was busy doing his own thing. But friend of a friend and I had met Rebecca, and we're just getting a beer. And, I'm at this point, I'm probably just bugging everybody with the idea, I bet. And I'm I want to do this thing. And Rebecca's oh yeah, I could do that for $30,000.
Well, that's better than $1 million.
You're right, exactly. It was this is how you get it done. So we actually ended up putting together a business proposal. I I forget. It felt like it was probably over a couple of days. It felt like one night at this point, but got this business proposal together, got everyone to start writing checks. And it was far more than $30,000, but it's sort of like Vegas. Like once you have people throwing coins into the slot, eventually there was going to be a Source Connect that popped out of that thing. We just didn't know how many coins it was going to take.
So you decided to get a tool working. When do you think Source Connect became a true alternative or backup to ISDN? When did it really start to take a head of steam?
By 2007, you've got people bridging and trying to find ways around ISDN, using it for traveling. That was one of the first things, like the really high-end voice channel was like, I can leave the house and I can bridge. And the really high-end ones would set up their own bridges. I would say definitely, I mean, George, when did you set up the bridge with Steve? Because that would have been... That's
a really good question. It was around 2005?
Oh, no, it had to be after that because we just sold our first copies. I think that's more like 2007.
Okay, 2006, 2007, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, it was probably like 2 years for us, like really rolling the rock uphill. And I feel like by the time Steve got into it and people are like, I'll build a business off of bridging to this thing kind of thing. Like it had gotten some roots.
It's been so long since I worked with Steve and Out of Here that I don't even have a client folder called Out of Here. That's how long it's been. Like if that gives you it's time, like I don't have a record going back that far, or an email thread, but it's been a long time.
I'll tell you how I know. Like it only happened this year, but when we started, we were like, who's the company? It was like EDNet. They were the ones. Like all the really high end connections were going through EDNet. We were like, can we beat EDNet? Well, they're out of business now, so yes.
Now you can't. Well, you've outlasted them, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and they weren't really the same thing. They were more like a service provider of other people's stuff. I mean, they ended up selling our stuff at the end,
right?
So they're not exactly the case, but we were. You know, it's funny because like that was success at the time, but I think the mark has moved a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your studio, Cave Recording.
It's a mess right now. How's that?
Well, we can only see parts of the mess.
I know there's a drum on a shelf behind you.
Yeah, like this. It really is a mess right now, but I'll show you anyways. Here, ready? Here goes that light that you were complaining about. So there's the Amic Big there's Pro Tools with the monitor that's not turned on. You can see that. Pro Tools keyboard net. Got some amps over there in the corner. Diffusers behind me. Oops, I'm going to pull my headphones out. Hold on.
Are those diffusers you guys made yourself, or?
No, those are actually RPGs that I got from Avenue Edit when they ripped out their audio rooms. And they were in another post house in an office building. Mm-hmm. So then here's fun stuff. Ready?
Lots of gear.
Okay. Neotech preamp 4-band EQ 8-channel. SideTech, which is basically like a newer version of Neotech. The guy from Neotech. Millennia preamp. This is Vincent's. What do you call it? Focusrite ISA preamp.
I say, yeah.
This is a Black Lion like API clone 4-channel preamp. Over here we got a spring reverb that's goofy from DoD. A distressor, which is a fun compressor, kind of chameleon. Classic DBX 160 compressor. An old Dynamite. I don't use this. This is Vincent's. It's like a these are all Vincent's actually. It's like a gate compressor thing. This is a Chinese clone. I forget what company. Alceron or something.
You know, Dynamite. There's a UAD version of Dynamite. Universal Audio, and it's really good actually.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's kind of a little bit hard to set. I don't dig into it too much.
It's Valley people, right?
For those of you who are
Valley right there.
Yeah. For those of you who are watching this, going, "Wow, I have to get all this stuff to do voiceover." No.
Which part of this is your stuff? It looks like there's an LA4 or no, an 1176.
So basically the spring reverb's mine, the distressor and the 160 and these things down to the Neve, actually all the way to the 1176 is Vincent's.
Uh-huh.
The LA2A clone is mine. The Altec compressor is mine. And these goofy, never heard of them, Tapeathon. It looks like a Tapeathon. These are the head amps from it. It looked like an Ampeg tape deck, but it's a tape deck called Tapeathon, used in radio stations in the 60s and 70s. And my friend just gave me the tape deck, and I ended up selling the transport on Reverb for like $50, but I kept the head amps, and I had someone convert them into mic preamps because they've got Langevin amps inside of them, which if anybody knows, like Langevins are pretty sweet. And they're transformer in, transformer out. I had someone basically wire in phantom power to them, and like often tape head amps from the day can be turned into preamps, and so there you go. I had those. And then over here,
Patch Bay.
Got the whole patch bay.
Oh boy, TTS patch bay.
TT, hell yeah.
Oh, TT, yeah.
Yep. And then up here's the speaker switch, and then this is the monitor controller because it does more than what the big does. And then patch bay for the whole big and all the outboard gear, and then your converters. And this is a controller for a preamp called the Paint Pot, which the idea with it is that the preamp goes right next to the microphone, and then the controller is far away, and that way you have the shortest microphone signal. And then up here, very sweet Santet EQ. This is mainly like a music mastering rack. This is a Manley very mu compressor stereo, and then this is an Avalon, also a compressor. But really, the great thing here is this passive EQ, which is pretty awesome. The top band there is at 32K, and you can't hear it, but it's just like glass, and
it's a mastering thing.
It's the air thing. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Man, that's a real music studio right there.
That is totally geeking out as far as
yeah. And then there's the live room over there, which has got drums and a piano and a stack of microphones.
Sounds like a recording.
Never enough, by the way.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's raining. Do you care if I turn that light off? Is this better or worse? Streaks through me.
It's
there are
right through
specular, whatever.
There we go.
We're getting a mass spectrometer of the elements in your studio.
Rob Headroom.
Anyway, so one of the things, you and George have known each other for a while, and one of the things that you guys have done, and we had you guys on as a group last year, it's the Pro Audio Suite. How did that come to be? And is it just the idea of let's be totally geeky and let's do a podcast about being geeky?
This is like the dating game because I can't remember, but I think so. I'm pretty sure like George was on the show separately from me, and maybe I was on the show separately. But at one point, we end up on Robbo's, and we end up as like simultaneous guests on their show. And the whole thing ended up being just like a combustible mix of stupidity. And and then we were just like, let's do it again. And
in other words, we had fun.
Yeah.
We had fun. It was enjoyable. We clicked. People seemed to enjoy listening to it. I don't even know if we cared if people enjoyed it.
I don't think so.
We just knew that we had a good time doing it.
We were just like, it was like the right combo of like Andrew was like wanted to listen to you and I geek out. Robbo was like, ooh, I can, like, this is actually interesting information, and then whatever. And we did didn't we do like the thing that kind of took off was we did that microphone shootout, and the Rode ended up sounding like ridiculously like a 416.
An NT1 sounded a lot like a 41.6.
41.6. I'm sorry.
The way we pronounce
right.
it on the Pro Audio Suite.
It's
because half of them are down below. They're down under, right? So they say they say the 416. They call it the 416, and we call it the 416. So it became the 41.6.
And that's the proper way to say it, by the way. So if you're with it, then you would know. If not, well,
right, of course.
Sorry.
Okay, and the water goes the wrong way down there. Flush the toilet.
The hardest thing about doing the show together, honestly, is the time zone stuff.
Yeah,
it's such a pain. Like whenever we switch to daylight savings, throws everything off an hour, and then somehow ends up being 2 hours off because I think Robbo tries to compensate and goes the wrong direction, and I'm just like,
and no matter what time you make it, I will be like something else will be happening 5 minutes before that.
Well, Robert, you somehow managed to deal with multitasking at a level that I've long since given up.
It will shorten your life.
That's what I'm worried. I'm really worried about you, man. You got to take it easy.
I know.
Robert's an incredible resource to a lot of people. I mean, he's dealing with source element support. He's dealing with internal source element stuff with their own company, his own business. And then also he's one of our top phone tech support. If you call George the Tech, very good chance you're going to get Robert on the phone.
Especially if it's a Source Connect issue.
Yeah, especially if it's a Source Connect issue.
If I get paged on that, I'm like, oh, this is Robert Marshall.
Well, the first thing that
I tend to just do those ones. Like sometimes I see the other stuff. I'm like, I don't want to get into it. Like it's like I just want to like go up there and like just bat the lob. Like here you go. Like there you go. Like out.
We have a question when they call in. Is your issue Source Connect related? And if it is, then you pretty much are you're number one on that call.
Yeah,
so that's how it goes.
Once again, if you're just joining us, you've missed lots of hilarity and lots of information. We're talking with Robert Marshall from Source Elements. And if you've got a question, throw it in the chat room, especially if it's about Source Connect or about what we're going to just talk about in just a minute, something that George and Robert have been working on diligently for the last while. And that is a thing called the PASport VO, which is an interface designed specifically for voiceover by people who do voiceover.
Which people seem to endlessly not understand why the product needs to exist. They're like, well, why have a Scarlett?
Yeah, every
why do I need this?
Why, don't you want to record both mics at the same time? No, not really. Actually, that's a problem. Like,
yeah.
Like,
so
well,
yeah,
maybe.
so we were talking about it on a show a couple of months ago. Just having one of the types of things that we talk about, where we just love to geek out about product. And
the show is about what is the best interface for a voiceover artist.
Right. That's literally what
the one that works
was.
Well, and it came down to like either the super simple thing or you get the UA Apollo and you can do everything you want. But the huge problem with that, because if you wanted to be able to do everything, then you had to understand the Apollo, which could do everything and then more stuff that you didn't want it to do, or else you were trapped in a kind of simple interface and then having to do a bunch of software stuff or it's still software, but you still end up in a murky world trying to make it do everything you want it to do, because these are music devices designed, they're designed for music. Really.
Yeah, everything's designed for music. So I think it's really cool that you guys decided to get together with Mike Goodman over at Centrance to come up with this great thing that we're about to see, the PASport VO. Tell us all about it and what it does and why it is specifically for voiceover.
I'll take a quick shot at it. For me, the reasons why it's specifically for voiceover. The first feature at the top is you have a selectable microphone. So you can have two microphones and then pick which one you're going to use, but you don't have to switch your routing in your software. It switches the routing here. Which microphone do I want going in? No software to change, just the front panel. Then it has an actual mic mute, which I don't think you can really find except for on the Apollo on the channel strip, but most of these interfaces don't have a hardware microphone mute. And that's useful when you want to just curse out your client and then get back on the line and be like, yeah, what was that other direction you wanted? Yes.
Yeah, or make a bodily function.
That too, right.
What we used to call a cough button.
Then the next probably most specific reason why it's for voiceover is because the microphone does not feed to the speaker outputs, which are actually on the, is it the back or the front, George? What is
he calls it? The front. I don't, yeah. I think it's on that
back,
but this is the front.
That's the front. Yeah.
In Centrance parlance. So the speaker jacks are here on the front, and yes, they are small, but that's all we could fit on this little guy. And the microphone inputs right next to the speaker outputs do not feed the speaker outputs, so you don't have to have a microphone. You don't basically have to create a PA system in your home studio where you're constantly fighting feedback, you don't have muting speakers to avoid feedback. Exactly.
But the microphone does go to your headphones in the booth where you want it to go. Right. And then I think that pretty much brings us to the back panel, which has, this is where the idea was that we set it up so it has a default setup that makes sense for most every talent. And the first thing is, again, a voiceover specific feature. The record, you can choose to have the second channel of the recording. Should you choose to record 2 channels, you're only going to send one, but are you going to record a gain reduced version of the first mic or the selected mic?
A safety channel, a safety in case you clip your input on a really exuberant performance.
Or do you want to record the other channel? So if you have 2 microphones and your clients don't know if they want the 416 or the U87, then you can record both, which is pretty much the mode that most of the normal music interfaces give you at that point.
That makes it work like a Scarlett 2i2 essentially.
And then the next one, which brings in the next huge feature to this thing, is can you record the comms? And what are comms?
What are comms?
Comms are communications. And inevitably this, now everyone's working remotely, ideally with Source Connect, but with whatever. And so really the PASport VO is 2 audio interfaces in one. And this simplifies everything tremendously, because if not, you have to figure out how to feed things into your audio interface without feeding your clients back into the audio interface so that you don't get a feedback loop. And then if you're on Windows, you have to figure out how to get 2 applications to want to use the same audio interface at the same time without butting heads. And we just decided to kind of do the keep it simple thing and give you one interface, which is on the left for the recording. That's what goes into your backup recording software. Mm-hmm. And one on the right, which if you're comms, which would go to Source Connect or maybe some other platforms. I don't know which ones. I can't think of any others, but it would go to some other platform if there was one.
Right.
And so here with that record setting, you can record the comments. That's what comms stand for, by the way, is comments, commentary, and of what your clients told you. So maybe you need to have notes for editing, and they're like, "That's a good take," and whatever. Or you just want to review the session so that you can.
Or you're getting coached, and you want to keep a track of your coach's notes.
There you go. Or you're recording an interview because you kind of do podcasting and voiceover, so there's some flexibility there,
which is a lot of people.
And this is the most common thing that people need to do, and they just lose their head trying to make their computer do this. And once they make their computer do that, then they can't go back to the old way, or they get all discombobulated. So here's a simple 3-way switch that really takes care of the 3 most common needs of a second channel. And then the 2 interfaces keep everything separated so there's no feedback. What's next? I guess those
are the big ones.
It's got a compressor in it, which is
it does have a compressor, which and it's meant to be a transparent one, not a limiter where it just cuts off the signal.
Like I might not even be mad at you for turning it on, but it's very light. It's got a meter that's usable on the front panel without using software to see what's going into the thing.
Outstanding.
Separate high pass filter, separate 48 volt in case you're using a ribbon microphone or whatever reason you don't want to have 48 volts on. What else? It's got a headphone extension output. Which you can use to feed your booth
out.
It's got a power switch.
Yeah, it's a power switch.
Switches.
This was something we thought was helpful because it's got 2 USBs, right? So sometimes you have to reboot a unit because some device isn't talking to the unit, or if there's a communication, or you just want to shut your studio off. There's just a single power switch that shuts off the unit. And
also, if you're using it mobily, you can switch which interface is the power, because sometimes or often the phone can't power this thing up. So you would power it with, say, an external battery or a wall wart going to the comms port, and you can use the record port. Or you could power it from the computer, use the computer as a completely separate backup to your phone if you really want to have like complete, not just a backup in the computer, but in case the computer explodes. Really everything you can need without going into like, I need to filter and EQ and really do some heavy duty processing on my voice. I think this is what most every voice talent needs without going completely overboard. So you could buy this, start out as a beginner, and this thing will take you well into your career is a reality, I think.
And it's in the side. I know we got to go to a break here a sec, but the sidebar thing is that this is something we can send out to any actor, and they will be able to get it working. We could send it out in the field for a field production. We could send it out to a talent to do an interview.
No software.
Broadcast situation. and they're not going to get too far into the weeds using this thing. It's just elegantly designed so that every button has a specific function without a million layers of menus and screens and everything to get lost in.
Because there's literally no software for it.
Yep.
And that's a good thing. And that's
we look
really
at it
cool.
as a good thing.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk a little bit more about the PASport VO. If you've got a question about this, because I'm sure most of you, your eyes are rolling to the back of your head going, "What? How do I use this?" We can go over it a little bit. If you've got a question about it, throw it in the chat room right now, and Jeff Holman will get that question to us in the next segment. So stay tuned. We'll be right back with Robert Marshall here on VoiceOver Body Shop.
Hi, this is Bill Farmer, and you are watching VoiceOver Body Shop. It's great.
Vacation time is just around the corner, around the world. For example, here's Australian voiceover pro Andrew Peters on vacation in London recording a commercial with his Portabooth Pro. Why is the Portabooth Pro gaining users worldwide? Well, just listen.
Winter's tough. The rain, the wind, the cold.
Performers can capture great audio even in acoustically untreated spaces with the Portabooth Pro. Your microphone hears the sound of a human-sized sound booth at a fraction of the size and cost. The Pro accommodates large and long microphones, lengthy scripts, and e-reading devices. The Harlan Hogan Portabooth Pro is lined with Auralex studio foam. It's a professional quality sound studio that assembles in less than a minute. And its multi-pocketed carrying case makes it super easy to take your gear and your voice wherever you go. Order your Harlan Hogan Portabooth Pro now, just $389.99, only at voiceoveressentials.com.
It's you.
This is my live ad for Source Connect.
It is.
Why don't we just have Robert do this?
Oh God, no! Don't make me do it.
It won't make him do that. It won't make him do that. Anyway, this is our chance on the show to thank our sponsor, Source Elements, because as Robert's well aware, he and the team at Source Elements has supported us for quite a long time, and it's a no-brainer because Source Connect is absolutely one of the strongest tools in the toolbox that a voice actor can have. And the key is really the team behind it. You know, the software has been around quite a long time, right? And there are other tools coming and going, by the way, that do similar stuff to Source Connect. But really, I think that makes it such a compelling and loved and relied upon tool is the team behind it. It's the support that keeps it running. It's the ability to get help when you need it. At odd hours. They have folks literally around the globe on call to provide support in emergencies, and you can schedule support as well. So if you know you're going to need some help with it, or you want to get some help in advance scheduled, you can do that through the website. There's a lot of great education over there, and there's just a huge installed user base of Source Connect. So when you start using Source Connect in your studio, you're now in this database, and you're now searchable and findable by studios and producers around the globe. So that's also not a bad thing. So anyway, we want to thank Source Elements again for their sponsorship of this show. If you want to get started, head over to source-elements.com, and you can get a trial over there. Get yourself started. Get into the process of getting it up and running, and be in play so that you can be available for those big gigs. Anyway, let's get on to the show. There's so much more to do right after this.
You know, I speak about the ACX Masterclass, the class that Dan O'Day and I teach that helps actors and voice talent add audiobook narration to their options for making money, for doing work, with a great sense of pride, because hundreds and hundreds of those performers have taken the course, and together they have produced over 5,000 books that are on sale right now on Audible. It just blows my mind that there's been that kind of production level from the people that have taken the course. And the cool thing is we're about to do the course again this summer, the home study version of the course. And right now, this week only, you have the opportunity to do a 3-pay monthly, no interest, lowest price anybody will pay for the course payment plan. So if you go to acxmasterclass.com, you'll see a little link saying, take me to the 3-payment plan. Right now, this week, 3 payments, lowest price only for the ACX Masterclass.
This is Ariana Ratner, and you're enjoying VoiceOver Body Shop with Dan Leonard and George Whittam. VOBS.TV.
All right, and we're back. So I told you I can handle the breaks. It's no big deal.
Well done, sir.
Thank you. I'm not fishing for compliments. Anyway, we're talking with Robert Marshall from Source Elements, and we've been talking about the PASport VO. Now, before we get into some questions here, you guys have to move a bunch of these things in the very near future, do you not? Explain.
We have to move things, or
you have to move these units.
We have to hit it.
I see. Yes, it can't happen unless there's. Unfortunately, the reality is that the reason why all these companies are making music audio interfaces is because they know they can sell more of those than something that's so specific. So in order to get Centrance to do this with us, they have to know that they can run at least one run. And these are really a small batch thing. So the other thing about it is just the scale of economy and the more specific it gets. It is, it's two interfaces in one. Your average interface is probably $200 for a stereo. So if this was 2 units, it'd be $400. But what's the cost, George? There's a lot of routing in it and everything else. Is it 6?
You got mute miking. You got mic switching, the mute controls, things that you would normally cobble together. It's a $699 pre-sale.
Right, like the mic mute button. That's like a $50 box if you get it as a foot switch.
A junky
or
one's
else.
$50. A good one's $100. I have one of the good ones for $100.
Right. So basically, but I forgot the price point. How much is it?
$699.
$699. Yeah. So we've got what is it? 25 more to make the batch that would seed it, because then it can actually become a product. If they can't get 100 of them, then there's none of them, is the kind of situation.
Yeah, that is the truth of the matter. So I know a lot of you are watching. A number of you have bought into the campaign already. And for that, we thank you very, very much. And you're basically in on it now. So if you want to help make this thing come to life, tell your friends why you decided to take the leap and invest in it, and that you trusted us. Yeah. Because we're going to make sure this thing is the most useful, longest lasting, greatest sounding little device you've ever owned. That's what we want to do.
Yeah. I find it fascinating that Mike Goodman over at Centrance and in Chicago of all places.
Yeah.
He comes up with these things and does these somewhat limited runs of these very, very specific types of interfaces. I mean, we've got the PASport VO.
I have this one.
That's the
it's the Podcaster. So the unit we're getting made is going to feel and look a lot like this. So in terms of size, it's pretty small.
Right. I've got the original one. What was it called?
The mixer face.
The mixer face without the recorder. So it's like,
right.
I think they don't even sell it now without a recorder.
That's right.
But that's the thing about Michael, is that he's approachable. There's no approaching focus right and being like, hey, we think you should make these things that we think we can sell 100 of them.
Yeah, we're a bunch of guys that want you to make this thing, and not going to happen.
Yeah, well, we got a question here from Jack Kolar, who's watching on YouTube.
Hey.
He says, please brag about the specs for this thing. Is there any self-noise?
It's basically the same specs as the other Centrance products. So it kind of starts out with a really kick-ass platform to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, so what you're getting here is sort of what's being inherited from other products from Centrance, right? We are not inventing new preamps and new converters.
Right.
We are repurposing what's already been optimized and developed by Centrance and other products. So for those that care about numbers, here they are. You can count on them being extremely similar to these numbers, because again, the preamp circuits, line ins, the converters, everything.
The compressor, the high pass filter,
Right.
In fact, actually, that was a fun discussion, because it's first like, do we want a steeper one? It's like, yeah, like the really gentle thing, even though it makes sense. It just gets rid of the rumble.
It's a gentle roll off, meaning it starts high, but it starts very gentle. And by the time it gets down to the rumble frequency below 60 or so, it will have rolled off quite a lot by that point. So it will really be effective at rumble without taking out too much low end of the voice. It's not easy to have a high pass filter that has a single setting, and we write for everybody. So that's why it was chosen like that.
I mean, a high pass filter really, as long as you're like 80 hertz and below, that cuts out so much of the observable noise that you'll have in your file, even though it's below perhaps the threshold of.
It's not going to get rid of like plosives. It's not the It's not the high pass filter that's going to take care of that. But the thing about those is that unless you really need a tunable one to do that one right, because if not, you're going to eat into your voice. And then the other one is that you're going to have a steeper order, and you're going to get some phase shifting with that, which we're just trying to be really minimal. It's the same idea with the compressor. It's just a really light, going to buy you some headroom, going to kind of just beef up your level just a little bit, but it's really going to be hardly observed.
Right.
And that's what you want. You want it to be seamless.
Seamless, transparent, not distracting.
Like, it's not going to get you in trouble.
Right.
If you like.
There's all sorts of things that can get you in trouble too. Question from Jeff Holman. And by the way, if you've got a question for Robert Marshall about this particular thing or about Source Connect, because I know you all have questions about Source Connect, throw it in the chat room and Jeff will get that to us right now. And speaking of Jeff, he has a question. So he says, so has all that hard box equipment in your studio been rendered obsolete now by software in an interface like the Relevator and the Apollo?
Yes. I mean,
doesn't matter though, right?
So I'll tell you an even funnier story that maybe George can relate to. But one of the, I think it was freshman year out of college, because my dorm looked like a recording studio. My roommate was a saint because I took that thing over, and I was doing like rap sessions in there and everything else. And anyways, I'm on summer break, and I draw this setup because I was tired of going to people's places, setting up everything. It'd take 3 hours to set everything up, and then you have to tear it down. So I wanted this table that had everything set up on it with a patch bay, and I drew this big cartoonish single plug, like a 1 power plug. I could just walk in with this thing and plug it in. And I was using a cassette 8-track at the time that was like the center of this thing.
Tascam
688. Yep. Actually, that thing's a wonder of science. Anyways, and so that's like the late 90s by the time that's like I've been using the hell out of it. And then I get my first Pro Tools system, and that really is a studio in the box. The first TDM system was, granted, it was like a pile of rack gear, probably a 4 rack space chassis and another computer. But easily by, say, 2003, you did not need all this stuff if you don't want to. There's subtle differences with all of it. But anybody, if you give someone a stack of SM57s and a Behringer interface and Reaper, the only reason why they can't make a good record is them at this point.
Yeah, it's skill.
Yeah.
The limiting factor is skill now. It is not the gear anymore.
It's all like nice stuff to have.
Skill and creativity.
Yeah. I mean, this is like really finer point stuff, but it's, in a sense, maybe it just keeps you motivated and it makes it fun as the engineer. You're
inspired. Inspired, I think is the word.
Yeah. But there's a lot of subtle differences. And for a lot of the compressors, it's ridiculous how close they get for being software.
Sure.
Yeah.
Once again, we're talking with Robert Marshall. If you've got a question for him, even about Source Connect, because nobody knows more about Source Connect than he does.
There actually is one.
Oh, there is a question about Source Connect.
Yes.
Can I see the questions? Is it
regarding Source Connect updates? I have Source Connect Standard. I signed up 3 years or more ago, I guess. Will I get notification when there are updates, or will it automatically update?
This version update is going to be a big one. So it won't automatically update. You will run the updater, and we hope to have it. I'll get killed, but I'm going to say definitely this year, probably before the end of this year. Can I be vague enough? Source Connect 4 is a major rebuild for us. It's every other version of Source Connect was built off of the same original platform that we literally established in 2005. And so we've learned a lot of stuff, and we didn't want to get into the position that a lot of companies had gotten into where they'd really overexpanded the software and the foundation wasn't able to take it. So we completely replatformed it. And it's been a very interesting education. We tried to not make any of the mistakes that we made in the last 20 years. and
no pressure.
You make those mistakes again. But at least this time it's like we realized when we were there and we had backed out of certain spots, and it's been a very methodical thing, and we're very happy with what we have now. So I think this, like, Source Connect 4 is going to be a big difference in terms of just even compatibility with Windows. That's just going to help, like actual compatibility, all the features, being able to conference things easier, having all the features work without having to set things up, no port forwarding, no iLock.
How did you get past the port forwarding thing? I think that's probably what intimidates most people about Source Connect.
So port forwarding is the right way to do it. But we just realized that, like, we cannot lift the world up anymore. And so, like, the difference between having a forwarded port and using SourceStream is essentially that one way or the other, you have to trust the party that you're connecting with on a sort of internet level. And if you have port forwarding, that's essentially setting up that trust. And if you don't have port forwarding, we might be able to knock our way through, especially if one side there are ports forwarded and the other side doesn't. But eventually, if both systems can't trust each other, the only thing you can trust is us, because you're both common. And then we have to pass all the data in order to complete that connection. And that's what SourceStream is. So it's not the ideal way, but it gets the connection done, period. And Source Connect 4 is going to be a lot smarter about being able to find its own way through the firewall, really get that peer-to-peer connection set up, probably without needing the port forwarding. And then if the port forwarding isn't available, because we're just not going to have it be part of it anymore, it'll just kick over to SourceStream, but SourceStream will be automatic and across the whole platform. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of beefed it up some more. We had to do a lot of work on it actually early in the pandemic because we just got pummeled, but we've sort of made that industrial strength as well. So a lot of behind the scene things, in the sense, it's like, well, it still just connects me. Like, what's the big deal? It's a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that makes it different, platforming it so that we will be able to introduce video to it, all these kinds of things that are just assumed. On the engineer's side, it's going to multi-track really easily. So cool. A lot of the setup that you used to have to do an ensemble voice record is now just boom there, and you get
that's good.
It's sort of like the best of Source Connect Now and Source Connect combined into one is essentially what it is.
Jay asks, is it worth it to get Source Connect certified? Explain to us what that is.
We think so. Yeah, we of course we do. It's essentially just a process of making sure that you're fully set up, that you have the confidence that when you do a Source Connect session and something is not right, it's not you. That you've checked off all your boxes and you're good to go. As an actor, I think it's very easy for some studios to put a lot of downward pressure on the actor, and it can be really stressful. And I'll be honest, like, sometimes these studios are not all together, or they're just kind of, there's a lot of chaos in everyone's life, we'll put it that way. And so they don't necessarily maybe have their port forwarding set up, or their routing isn't right. And when you hook up with a studio and you hear an echo of yourself, just understanding that there's no way that you can cause a 400 millisecond echo for yourself. It's them. And so being certified also means that your connection is solid. We've run through everything, and therefore people can book you with confidence. So that's what it's about, and we think it's worth it. We're going to try to drive some more value into that whole thing as well, with future updates in the community. But that's currently what it's about, is mainly just, are you technically good to go, and are you confident for yourself, and do your clients have confidence in that as well?
Right. Once again, we're talking with Robert Marshall. We're talking about a couple of different things. We still have a couple of comments, sort of questions. Grace Newton asks, hopefully you guys will do a rundown of all the features, which we've done, because I don't know enough about it to ask any questions. I am interested in the two USB ports. Now, one is for one thing and one is for the other, right?
Right. One is for recording, and the other one is for communicating.
I do have a slide here that I don't think, if you don't fundamentally understand what the features are for, this may not help you.
Spreadsheets.
Yeah.
No. Here's a common situation that the PASport just takes care of easily. You hook up with your clients. They're recording you on Zoom because they don't want to hire an audio. They're recording you on Zoom because they don't want to hire an audio engineer. And they're, again, putting everything on you to you're like, make sure it sounds good. No one's going to double check it because we're hearing it over this connection. So we don't even know what it sounds like. And then we're going to ask you to play stuff back because we're just sitting in a conference room or a Zoom room and we don't have any audio person here. It's just you reading scripts. And we're going to give all these files all your files to an Avid editor after the fact. So with the PASport, playing back is as easy as just going to your backup recorder, stopping and playing back. And literally you don't have to do anything to your setup. I can tell you that people have spent hundreds and thousands of dollars getting their studio set up for these types of playback situations and other things. But just the playback thing alone, some people have really...
Yes. I've set it up for a lot of people over the years, and it was always pretty complicated. People have been buying Apollos, and it did make it shrink into a box. Now all that stuff is in here, but it doesn't. Instead of needing
two audio interfaces, right? Because George, what were you doing before the Apollo with a lot of people? You'd set them up with two audio interfaces.
A Behringer UCA 202,
right?
As the playback loop for your communications,
and a pile of cables that you couldn't go on vacation with.
Yeah. So it really does simplify a lot of things, even though those features make no sense, I think, if you're not using this type of gear on a regular basis. But that's kind of the point.
But that's kind of the point, is that you can buy a Scarlett and you're going to spend another $200 later. You're going to outgrow it. And you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure it out. And then you're going to spend a lot of time trying to figure something else out later. Or we think this is something that starts where you're at, gets the core feature done really well, and grows reasonably where most voiceover talent kind of get off the train anyways. They don't want to be full up audio engineers, but they just need enough to be able to give playback, be able to adjust some communications, maybe record somebody every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's why this is sitting on a stool.
Right.
Yeah,
because you outgrew it.
How many interfaces?
Right. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. No, there's interfaces are piling up over here.
This one's Robert, $1,000, and it can't do a lot of what our.
That's the yellow, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
What are people thinking about this? Keep it.
And that's the point. The yellow was designed to be super, super, super simple. Wasn't that one of the points of it? It was like, you can't mess it up. It's like high quality and ridiculously simple.
Yeah.
But loses important features.
Yeah. One last question from Patricia Tusanade. She says, I almost got it, but I'm too much of a newbie. Not sure if I should. I have an Apollo Solo right now. Will we get a chance to get this particular device, the PASport VO, in the future later on?
Only if we can sell 100 of them. How long do we have, George? Like a week?
I mean, essentially, here's the deal. We passed our 15-day window where we were.
We failed. We technically failed, didn't we?
You did all right.
No, we failed.
We didn't
sell 100.
Right.
Yeah.
So after that big push, Michael didn't want it to die because he believes in it now. He sees that there's real value. He has seen that you guys have backed up this product by making pre-orders, and he doesn't want it to fail. So he's still supporting trying to reach that goal. The problem is he can't do it all summer.
Right.
He's going to Europe. He's got trade shows to do, and he's a small operation.
He's got some other products on the deck too. I think he said
on the deck, and so we really do. I think really about a week. May. I think he was saying May 7th, 9th, somewhere in that range is when he was going to cut it off. So.
We'll push it at WovoCon this weekend. We'll have
because at some point it's not fair to the people that did put the money down. It's going to take. Once we get the go, it's going to still take several months to deliver. And so we can't just like sit on people's money.
Right. Centrance is holding that money. Now, to be really
we're not doing it.
If you don't hit the goal, the money goes back. If you get the product in the mail in 4 or 5 months and you don't like it, you get your money back. This is not a donation. It's not, the money doesn't disappear.
It's not a GoFundMe project.
It's not a GoFundMe.
It's not a GoFundMe project.
It's not a GoFundMe. It's not Indiegogo or Kickstarter. This money, you are not donating money. So
You're getting a product. Yeah.
You're getting a product.
Super. Well, Robert, thank you so much for joining us tonight and telling us about the PASport and all the other cool stuff that you do, and good luck with that one, and of course with Source Connect and with the update on that. We're really looking forward to all this.
Thank you guys. Well, always really good to be on the show, and thank you for the plug, George.
All
and
right.
thank you for not making me do it.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
No.
All righty. We'll be right back to wrap things up and re-rack it for Tech Talk right after these important messages.
This is Ariana Ratner, and you're enjoying VoiceOver Body Shop with Dan Leonard and George Whittam. VOBS.TV.
Your dynamic voiceover career requires extra resources to keep moving ahead. There's one place where you can explore everything the voiceover industry has to offer. That place is voiceoverextra.com. Whether you're just exploring a voiceover career or a seasoned veteran ready to reach that next professional level, stay in touch with market trends, coaching, products, and services while avoiding scams and other pitfalls. VoiceOver Extra has hundreds of articles, free resources, and training that will save you time and help you succeed. Learn from the most respected talents, coaches, and industry insiders when you join the online sessions, bringing you the most current information on topics like audiobooks, auditioning, home studio setup and equipment, marketing, performance techniques, and much more. It's time to hit your one-stop daily resource for voiceover success. Sign up for a free subscription to newsletters and reports. It's all here at voiceoverextra.com. That's voiceoverextra.com. All
right. Well, it's time for time for a little bit of name dropping, to tell you the truth, because the other day I got a phone call or a text. It was a text from our good friend Debbie Derryberry, and she's like, "I'm trying to get my niece a website for voiceover. What do I do?" And we don't want to spend a lot, so I sent her over to a place that was my idea originally, and our friends at Voice Actor Websites started up. It's called voiceactor.com. Voiceactor.com. What is voiceactor.com? Voiceactor.com is the greatest thing ever if you're just starting out in voiceover, because everybody has to have a website. It's really, really important to have that web presence when you're a voice actor. So if someone, here's your demo and they're like, well, let me see what this person's about, got to have a website that has a number of basic things: your name, your demos, and your contact info. And it has to look nice. It's like, well, no, it's got to have flowers and I have to have me jumping around it. All you need is your name, your demos, and your contact information, and a nice background. And what voiceactor.com does is it gives you templated websites. Very easy. You can start for free and get yourself online in half an hour. Even less if you're pretty good with that kind of stuff. Just follow the instructions, check it out, start an account there. It's free to start. And if you want to, of course, upgrade to something where you can get a little bit more customization, go on over there. It's voiceactor.com. And that will get you online in no time. We'll be right back and finish things up right after this.
We are the World Voices Organization,
also known as WOVO. We're the not-for-profit industry association of freelance voice talent. Voiceover is a complex entrepreneurial business.
WOVO is there to promote the professional nature of voice work to the public, to those already established in their voiceover practice,
and to those who want to pursue voiceover as a career.
Membership benefits include
a supportive and creative community,
a profile and demos on voiceover.biz, our searchable directory of vetted professional voice talent,
our exclusive demo player for your personal website,
our mentoring program, business resources, and our video library,
our annual WovoCon conference, a fun and educational weekend with other members with the chance to learn and network,
webinars and great speakers, and weekly social chats with other members around the world.
If your world is voiceover,
make WOVO part of it. World Voices Organization.
We speak for those who speak for a living.
This is the Latin lover narrator from Jane the Virgin, Anthony Mendez, and you're enjoying Dan and George on the VoiceOver Body Shop.
All right. We're
That was
back.
great.
Yeah. No, Robert's always fascinating to talk to and see all. I mean, there's a guy with a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. And how much of it does he actually use? I just like to push buttons. That's really
Day to day. I mean, a lot of it is just a collection of things that are fun to play with and use. And sometimes when you're running a studio, people are coming in, they're paying you for your time and sometimes your gear. They want to see what kind of unique stuff you have for them to use. What can you bring the mojo to their recording? So that is some of it. Some of it's mysterious.
Right. So next week on this very show, when you tune in, it will be Tech Talk number 102.
Yay.
Believe it or not. And we've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We're going to record that. Now, if you're watching live, you can actually watch us do Tech Talk live and ask your questions. So hang out for that. And then in 2 weeks, Dave Walsh, the great voiceover coach, will be joining us and talking about a lot of cool stuff. And I guess he'll coach me through another spot. Anyway, you still got 10% off anything at George the Tech?
That's right. VOBS Fan 10 gets you 10% off any services or webinars at georgethe.tech.
All right. We also need to thank all our donors of the week, and they are very helpful to us. Grace Newton,
Robert Leadham,
Steve Chandler,
Casey Clack,
Jonathan Grant,
Thomas Pinto,
Greg Thomas,
A Dr. Voice,
Antland Productions, looking forward to seeing Uncle Roy this weekend,
Martha Kahn,
949 Designs,
Christopher Epperson,
Sarah Borges,
Philip Sapir,
Brian Page,
Patty Gibbons,
Rob Ryder,
Shauna Pennington Baird,
Don Griffith,
Trey Mosley,
Diana Birdsall, and Sandra Manwiller. All righty.
Oh,
hey,
by the way, last little pluggy thing.
Yeah.
If you do buy the passport, you put the order in, please use VOBS in the coupon code area. That just lets them know you heard about it here. If you forgot, just email them and let them know. We'd appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. We need to thank our sponsors, of course. Harlan Hogan's Voiceover Essentials,
VoiceOver Extra,
Source Elements,
VOHeroes.com.
There it is right there. VoiceActor.com and WorldVoices.org, which is the Industry Association of Freelance Voice Talent. We have WovoCon coming up this weekend. I am so looking forward to that.
Sounds like it's going to be fun.
It's going to be a hug fest, which is the most important thing.
And you'll have more time to hug everybody because there's fewer people. It's not like a zoo.
That's right. Yeah, it's not like, wait, I see her. She's on the other side of the room. No, it's...
Or like, wait, you were there for 4 days too, and we never saw each other? No,
that was Atlanta. There were
that's VO Atlanta.
There.
That's not WovoCon.
That's right. We need to thank Jeff Holman for getting all the stuff in our chat room.
Yay.
Where was Sue? Sue was busy tonight, so I'm doing all the switching right now. And of course, Lee Penny for being Lee Penny. Hey, that's going to do it for us this week on VoiceOver Body Shop. Stay tuned for Tech Talk Live. If you're still here, you get the chance to ask your questions to George and I about anything home voiceover studio. So anyway, look, this isn't an easy business. It's everybody's trying to do it, but not everybody's succeeding. You have to have the technology and the knowledge of what it takes to succeed, along with just being a good voice actor. But we've come to the conclusion that when it comes to your audio, if it sounds good,
it is good.
I'm Dan Leonard.
And I'm George Whittam.
And this is VoiceOver
Body Shop,
or VOBS.
Yes.
We'll see you next time. Stay tuned for Tech Talk.